Hello friends, it's Kristie Marcotte. In today's video, I'll be using Honeybee Stamp's brand new Simply Spring paper pad. I'll also be using an assortment of dies and stamps from their Simply Spring release, but my main focus is using this beautiful paper pad. There are so many gorgeous watercolor floral designs, I really wanted them to shine on the cards. For card design number 1, I'm using a card sketch for inspiration. This is from MFT, it's number 290. For the background of my card, I have this lovely orange watercolor design. The opposite side of the paper features these beautiful red, pink, and orange flowers. I'll be layering everything on some red cardstock. For the long banner on the left side of the card, I'll be using a strip of the Gingham Happy Hearts collection. I cut a fishtail on the bottom, and I'll adhere that piece down first using some ATG tape. For the smaller banner, I'm using some orange cardstock that's just slightly darker than the orange watercolor pattern paper. Then I'll add this beautiful floral panel on top, adhering it in place using Honeybee Stamp's precision tip glue. I'll layer the background on the red cardstock, put some ATG tape on the back, and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. All of my cards in this video are American Standard A2 size, 4 1/4 inches by 5 1/2 inches. For my cardstock layers, I usually add an additional 1/8 of an inch. So the orange watercolor paper on the background is 4 inches by 5 1/4 inches, and that red cardstock piece is 4 1/8 of an inch by 5 3/8 of an inch. I'll be adding 3 small white flowers, and these are from Honeybee Stamp's Lovely Layers Dogwood set. I cut them out from some white shimmer cardstock, and I'm adding just a tiny bit of yellow to the center. The ink color is Whipped Honey by Catherine Pooler. I cut out the center of the flowers from some yellow cardstock, and I'll adhere that in place, adding just a small drop of glue, and I'll pick up that tiny piece using an embellishment wand. I will put some foam dimension on the back of each of the flowers, but first I'll add the sentiment. I've already stamped this out. I'm always here for you, and this is from the Big Time Kindness set. I'll cut a fishtail on the right and left side. Put some 1/8 of an inch tear tape on the back side, remove the release paper, and adhere the sentiment on the lower portion of that floral panel. I first tried the 1/4 of an inch tear tape, but it was just a tiny bit too wide. The 1/8 of an inch was the perfect size. Then I can add all 3 of my flowers. I'll put 2 above the sentiment and 1 underneath it. Then for a final finishing touch, I'll add a few of the pastel pearl stickers in orange. The colors on this set are so pretty and work beautifully with the pattern paper. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. For card design number 2, the card sketch is from MFT. This is number 614. For the background of the card, I'm using a tone-on-tone gray gingham, and this is from the Gingham Happy Hearts collection. Then I have 3 small pieces of this lovely blue and gray watercolor floral design. I'll layer everything on some gray cardstock. The 2 small rectangles on the left are the same size. I'll put adhesive on the back of both of the pieces, flip the bottom piece over, and I'll just lay it there while I work on the placement for the top piece. The very right side of each of the pieces should line up. Then I'll add that top floral piece, and finally the small piece on the right side of the card. I'll layer this panel on some dark gray cardstock, put my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. Now it's time to add some fun images. I'm using Lovely Layers Spring Birds and also Lovely Layers Nest. And I've already gone ahead and cut out all of the pieces, although I haven't assembled anything yet. The blue tray that's holding all my die cut pieces is the lid for Honeybee Stamp's chamois case. It works great for holding small items. I'll first assemble the nest, and I cut this out from 2 shades of gray cardstock. For the middle layer, I did use some gray ink to darken it slightly. That way it looks like I have several different shades of gray cardstock. I'll attach the 3 main pieces of the nest together, and I also cut out some of the eggs, and I used some pattern paper. A little hard to see in the video, but it has white and blue chevron stripes. I'll tuck those 3 eggs into the nest. Once all of the eggs are in place, I'll add the final branch to the front of the nest. The etched details on this set are amazing. Tuck in that 3rd egg into the nest. Now I'll put glue on the back side of the final branch. And I did pull out Barely Art glue for some of those tiny little pieces. It has a nice small metal tip. I'll adhere the nest in the lower left-hand corner, and I did put 1 foam square on the very left side of the nest, and the rest I'll adhere down using some glue. Now it's time to assemble the bird. I'll have a blue bird. Try to pick cardstock colors that match the blue floral design. I have the darkest blue for the very background piece. Next, it's a light gray for the body, a lighter blue color for the head and the front wing, and a cream color to go on the chest. This die set also has amazing etch details. There are several pieces to assemble the bird, but it's very easy to put together. You can always head over to Honeybee Stamps website where they have a layering guide. The final pieces are fairly small, so I am using my embellishment wand to pick those up, adding just a small drop of Barely Art glue for the beak, the eyes, and the feet. Once I have my bird all assembled, I'll add a few highlights using a white gel pen. Putting some white streaks on the wings, the tail, adding a highlight to the eye, a few dots above the head, and also some on the chest. And I'm using a small scrap of pattern paper just to make sure my white gel pen is flowing smoothly. So there is my bird all finished, and she'll be flying just above the nest. I'll put some foam dimension on the back and a little bit of glue underneath her body where it'll be sitting on the nest. Then I'll adhere my bird in place. This is such a sweet bird, and I love that the set includes 2 different birds. For a sentiment, I've already stamped and cut out the word hello, and this is from the Daisy Layers Bouquet set. I have the stamps and coordinating honey cut dies. And I did pop up the sentiment using some foam dimension. For a final finishing touch, I'll add a few pearls. For a final finishing touch, I'll add some gray pearls, and these are from the Cool Pearls set. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. This is one of my favorite cards. I just love the bird image. Now moving on to card design number 3. The card sketch is from Cards TV. This is sketch number 42. I selected this beautiful floral design for the background, adding a 1-inch strip of a light polka dot paper, and this is from the Pinstripes and Polka Dots Spring Collection. It's brand new to Honeybee Stamps. I'll layer the floral paper on another pattern paper, has this beautiful green ombre design. Put some ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base. I cut out a stitched oval die cut from the same green ombre pattern paper, and I'll adhere that to the left side of the card using some glue. For an image on the card, I'm using 2 different new die sets, Bud Vases and also Lovely Layers Spring Greenery. I have all of the pieces already cut out. I did use some pattern paper for the Bud Vase, and this is from the Grain and Grunge collection. It's still one of my favorites from Honeybee Stamps. And I save all of those small scraps, since sometimes all you need is a little piece, just like for this small vase. I'll be adding 1 leafy branch and 2 flowers to the vase. The flowers are from 1 piece on the Spring Greenery set. I cut out the background piece from some dark green cardstock. For the floral area, I'm using a purple pearlescent cardstock, and behind the large floral piece, I'm using a solid purple cardstock, which is actually the back side of the pearlescent. Now I'll trim that floral die cut into 2 pieces. For the leafy branch, I did cut this out from some white shimmer cardstock. I'll trim off the lower portion since I don't need that large leaf. I'll glue that down first, and I'm not attaching the vase yet. Next, I'll attach the larger flower, and 2 of the leaves will peek out from the vase. Then I'll add the smaller flower on the right side. On the back of the vase, I do have some foam dimension. I just didn't add it at the very top, since that area has the stems from the leaves and flowers. I'll put just a little bit of glue behind that top portion and adhere my vase in place. For a sentiment, I've already stamped and cut this out. You're in my thoughts. Using the same outline die, I cut out another piece from the same green pattern paper, layered those two together so I have a fun drop shadow of green underneath the sentiment. And this sentiment is from the Daisy Layers Bouquet set. For a final finishing touch, I'll add some pretty purple pearls, and this is from the Autumn Pearl Sticker set. So there is my finished card, and I did make two using this design. For card design number 4, it'll be featuring 2 dies from the Spring Vine Layering Frame set. This is such a fun set. I love all the etched detail. I used the largest die to cut out this fun teal frame. I'll put some adhesive on the back, ATG tape in the center, and for around the very intricate outside edge and corners, I'm putting a little bit of Barely Art glue. Then I'll add a panel of polka dot pattern paper behind the frame. I'll put more adhesive on the back and add my card front onto a card base. And this is a full A2 size panel. You can see just a peek of the white card base showing. Using another die from the Spring Vine Layering Frame set, I cut out this beautiful floral pattern paper, and I do have foam dimension on the back so I can pop it up. I made sure to get good coverage, and I used Honeybee Stamp's thin foam strips. Remove the release paper and adhere that panel to the center of my card. For a sentiment, I've already stamped and cut out the word kindness. And this is from the Big Time Kindness set. I think stamping the sentiment on craft colored cardstock really helps it pop. I'll put glue on the back and adhere it to the lower portion of that pattern paper frame. And I also stamped out thank you and for your, and this is from the same stamp set. It's fun that you can mix and match some of the different sentiments to create your own. So my full sentiment is thank you for your kindness. I adhered both of those above the word kindness. Then for a final finishing touch, I'm adding some of the Simply Spring gem stickers. I'll put a few around the sentiment and also the medium size in each corner of that background frame. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. I love the variety of colors and styles of the floral pattern papers. For card design number 5, the card sketch is from Sketch Saturday. This is number 591. I will be changing this sketch up quite a bit. I'm using it more for inspiration. This floral design is one of my favorites from the whole collection, so I really wanted to make sure to feature it on a card. I'm using it for the background, adding a strip of polka dot paper toward the bottom of the card, adding this fun panel of tone-on-tone, sort of a dusty rose color. I'll layer everything on a burgundy colored cardstock. You can see on the card sketch, it's designed for a vertical card, but I'm turning it into a horizontal card. Put my card front onto a card base. Now I'll add the sentiment, "You're amazing," and this is from the Big Time Kindness set. Using the same burgundy colored cardstock, I've already added that drop shadow behind the sentiment. I'll adhere it in the lower right-hand corner of the card. Instead of the star embellishments that are indicated on the sketch, I'm adding 2 more of the dogwood flowers. I cut these out from some white shimmer cardstock, added a very light pink center to each of them, and I'll adhere them in the upper left-hand corner. To finish off the card, I'll add 3 of the pink pearls in the lower right-hand corner. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. It's a very simple card design, but it really shows off that beautiful pattern paper. For card design number 6, the card sketch is from MFT. This is number 636. This card will feature just a small panel of that lovely watercolor floral paper. For the background, I have a green tone-on-tone polka dot paper. Also some more of this fan dusty rose pattern paper that I used on the previous card. I'll layer that piece on a similar pink cardstock. layer the floral piece on some green cardstock, and for the very background of the card, I cut out a scallop rectangle die cut from some green cardstock. Before adhering the floral panel down, I'll put a scrap piece of cardstock and pattern paper at the very top, just helping keep everything nice and level. And I'll adhere it in place using some glue, trying to make sure the right side is lined up with the other pattern papers. Then I'll put ATG tape on the back of the scallop piece, and also a little bit of glue along that very outside edge to help it lay nice and flat on the card. Then I'll adhere my card front onto a card base. You can see just a peek of the white card base showing around that scallop die cut. For an image on the card, I'm using a die set from last year, Lovely Layers Bugs. The dragonfly image is my absolute favorite. There are only 2 pieces to assemble, and it has beautiful edge detail. I cut out the body from some rust pearlescent cardstock, and I used some rose gold mirror cardstock for the wings. I'll put glue on the back of the body and adhere the dragonfly toward the top portion of that floral panel. The sentiment I've already stamped out, Sending Hugs, and this is from the Big Time Kindness set. I cut a fishtail on the left side and I'll adhere it above the floral panel. For a final finishing touch, I'll add a few of the Happy Hearts pearl stickers. Put 2 around the sentiment and 3 underneath the dragonfly. So there is my finished card, and I did make 2 using this design. Now moving on to card design number 7. The card sketch is from Sweet Sunday. This is number 286. This is a great sketch for featuring beautiful pattern paper. Of course, you can always add an image in that circle area. I'm such a big pattern paper fan. I'm always looking for sketches to really highlight those lovely designs. I used a stitch circle die from Honeybee Stamps to cut out the pattern paper. For this smaller rectangle panel, I'm using more of that green ombre pattern paper, and I'll be layering it on a darker green cardstock. For the very background of the card, I'm using a light tan cardstock color, and I'll also layer that on some green cardstock. For the narrow strip on the left side of the card, this is the back side of the green ombre paper. It has a tone-on-tone leaf pattern. Before adhering it in place, I did add some scrap cardstock and pattern paper pieces at the very top and bottom. Then I'll adhere it in place using some glue. I'll put some ATG tape on the back and add my card front onto a card base, leaving 1/8 of an inch of the white card base showing. The design on the card sketch has the left side of the circle cut so it's flush to the edge. To get that nice straight edge, I'll hold the circle in place, flip over my card, and use my scissors to cut off the extra. Before adhering the circle down, I will add a scrap cardstock piece just on the very left side of that circle. Then I'll adhere it using some glue. For a sentiment, I've already stamped and cut this out, Hello Friend, and this is from the Big Time Kindness set. I used some gold mirror cardstock for that fun drop shadow. I already have foam dimension on the back side, and I'll adhere the sentiment in the lower right hand corner, putting it up high enough so I can add another part of the sentiment, You're the Best. And I'll put a scrap pattern paper piece on the very right side of that sentiment before adhering it in place. Using the same green cardstock, I'll cut a small banner and add it in the upper right hand corner. I'll cut a fishtail on the bottom, cut the right side at a slight angle, flip over that piece, and do the same thing on the other side to create this fun whimsical banner. And I'll adhere it down with the very top of the banner going slightly above that green pattern paper panel. For a final finishing touch, I'll add some of the Simply Spring gem stickers. Put 2 in the upper right hand corner and 3 around the sentiment. So there is my finished card, and again I did make 2 using this design. I think this floral paper has a very tropical look to it. Now here's another look at the 14 cards I made using Honeybee Stamps Simply Spring paper pad, and also an assortment of new stamps and dies from their Simply Spring release. This paper pad is absolutely stunning. I love all the beautiful watercolor floral designs. Some of them are so beautiful, I may pick up another paper pad just to frame those beautiful patterns. There are so many fun new products from the Simply Spring release. I only used a small amount of them in this video. If you are interested in any of the products I used in this video, I do have links provided in the description box below. And I'll also add a link to the entire Simply Spring release. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day.